your strength and show me your weakness. We're in this together now. We're in this together now. Give me your love and tell me your secrets. 'Cause we're in this together now. Yeah, we're in this together now. I'll keep you safe, I'll give you my everything. Even if we're falling down, even if we're falling down, all of me is yours, every part of me. 'Cause we're in this together now. You and me together now. What's the point of living if we're scared to lose each other? What's the point of living without you? Tell me now and I'll stop fighting. Tell me now and I'll stop breathing. I don't want to be here without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. No, 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 no. I'll be your light, I'll keep you from darkness. Even when the sun don't shine, even when the sun don't shine, give me your strength, show me your weakness. 'Cause we're in this together now. You and me together now. What's the point of living if we're scared to lose each other? What's the point of living without you? Tell me now and I'll stop fighting. Tell me now and I'll stop breathing. I don't want to be here without you. Without you. Without you. Without you. Without you.
Well, welcome everyone here for just a little bit of a pre-show before we start the show today. Good to see you all. It's a bit of a yucky day today actually out there. It's a bit of drizzle around, so it's nice to be inside. So I'm not having a alcohol today. I'm having a Milo because it's warming me up a little bit. Nice chocolate milk drink to warm me up. So how is everyone? Pop into the chat to say hi. Just so we know that you're here. Should be some interesting stories today. It's look, there's not been much announced, but there's some interesting stories that we can go through all together anyway. And I'll probably won't be here next Saturday. I'm going to go out and do some filming. So I think I'm going to sort of be out for the day. So I'll probably have to miss next week. But I'll talk about that more during the week. I can sort of talk about that definitely when I'm with Aaron on Wednesday or Tuesday your time. So pop in the chat. Let me just pull over and just see who's here at this stage. It's still early. Everyone's starting to pop in. Let me just see if I can move that down a bit. So Mike's here. Aaron was here a little bit earlier too. He's above that actually, just said hey. Hello, good content. Dave said, hi David, just sitting down for a nice steak dinner. Yum. Sounds good. Dana's also here from Florida. Barry's also saying good morning. Mike is saying it's 0-0 here, just the beginning of the weekend. Andre's saying, what's up? Yeah, no drink for me. Well, not yet anyway. It's a bit cool today. Leslie says, greeting from Croydon. Mike also says, when will you open your gimbal museum? I've got one now. Oh, boy, am I having fun with this thing. Oh, God, this is amazing, this gimbal. This is unbelievable. I've just started to get used to it now. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but I was playing around with the tracking and everything yesterday, and it works so well. You just basically put a square around what you want to track, and it will track that subject, and it seems to follow really well. That's with the Raven Eye. But stay tuned. That's one of the reasons I think why I might be away next Saturday, because I think I'm going to go and do some shooting with it. And I'm expecting another gimbal. I can't tell you what that one is yet, but I'm expecting another one, and hopefully that'll be here before the end of the week, and I can take that away with me as well, because I'll be able to review that at the same time. So it's like gimbal heaven. Oh, love it. What else have we got? The weekend is here. Yes, it certainly is. TJ said 20 frames per second at 45 megapixels is a no-brainer. What's that? What's 20 frames per second at 45 megapixels, TJ? Hi all, Jim's in here as well. There is a rumour that I'm here. I love it. Happy Halloween. Kerry tried to make me wear Minnie Mouse ears this morning. She said, you've got to do something for Halloween. And I said, no. Sunny and 79 degrees here in Las Vegas. Well, lucky you, Joe. It's only going to be cool here today. I don't know what the temperature is going to be. It's only going to be 18 degrees, so Celsius, that is, not Fahrenheit, so it's probably 60 odd. It's quite cool, actually, for this time of year. Greetings from Oregon. Mike said, I gave Ronin RS, but the new one is really an upgrade. The new one is an upgrade, yeah, now. Maybe now the best gimbal. Yeah, it looks like it is. It looks really good, Mike, but I'll talk about that. I still like the Firetech for the small stuff because it's much, much smaller. But if you're putting anything on that's a decent size, this thing... and this was out of my own money, so, like, it's amazing. So it works really good. I love the tracking and stuff like that, but, yeah, it's terrific. Good Friday from Plantation, Florida. You should do a parody of camera conspiracies only with gimbals instead of cameras. Axma, another gimbal. Yep, I'm getting another one. I am going to sell some of these though. A lot of these I've bought. So, I'm going to sell them and then I can buy another thing. But I'm just waiting. Lockdown, I think, is going to finish here in Melbourne. I'm out of lockdown, but Melbourne should come out of lockdown next weekend. So as soon as that sort of happens, I think I'll put a lot of those on the market and try and sell them, and then I can use the money for something else. No, it's not a Moser. I can tell you that, Andre. It's not Moser. What else have we got? So RGVC saying good Friday from Plantation. Dave said you should... I've read that one already. New Orleans said suffered property damage from a hurricane. Oh, I hope you're okay. It could have been worse, but I'm watching. Well, thanks for watching, TJ. Hope Alicia's safe and everything's okay. Another game. No, it's not the Moser. Jim said, rumour, David Osa has been hired to film some clips for the next Terminator movie. Those gimbals will be animated. R5, of course. Thomas said, living in the Mickey Mouse Street in Almere. Is it Almere? The Netherlands. Smash that like button, TJ said as well. Thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate it. So, yeah, if you can, it just lets people know I'm live because the stupid YouTube notifications half the time don't come through. Cheers, or I should say, I shouldn't say cheers when I'm drinking Milo. That is really nice, though. So let's get stuck into the show. So what I'm going to do is... we're going to look at the first story, but let me put down here, show start. So full frame camera sales, because I'm going to go through that to start with. Let me click on there. Let me put the time, which is 10:10. Oh, I've got to put it at the beginning. So what are we? 10:18. All right, so I wanted to discuss this with you because this is an interesting story that's come out. Why is it that way? That's weird. Let me fix this for a minute. Don't know what's going on there. Oh yeah, that is right. I've got to pull it down there. There we go. Now we're right. All right. So, full frame camera sales. It's interesting because Sony Alpha posted this just the other day, and it's quite interesting because they're saying now that Canon is catching up with the Sony sales, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting because let me blow this up a little bit just so that you can see it a bit larger. Bring that over there. I have to refresh the screen. All right, so let's look at what they're saying here. I'll just say what it shows down here first. This is the BCN ranking that's coming up, and it's unveiled the latest market share data, and the trend is clear. Canon's latest R5 and R6 Duo is selling well in Japan, and Canon is now gaining terrain. Sony's leadership is now at risk. It would have helped for Sony to have launched the new A7 IV, but for some weird reasons, they decided to wait till 2021 to launch this new camera. And that's one of the things that I did think was a little bit strange about why they didn't bring that camera out. Because even though, look, this is unbelievable. I mean, I absolutely adore this, and I've talked to you about this before, this camera is just super. It's probably one of the best cameras I've ever used, and like I showed a whole thing of how it worked for stills as well. I'm going to be using this also next week, like I said, when I do that shoot with the gimbals, and I can't wait to shoot the video side of it again because I'm dying to do that because I've sort of concentrated on the stills over the last few videos. But this is amazing. But having said that, even though I think this is selling well, this is a niche camera. It's not really going to sell like what an A7 IV would. And that's one thing that you've got to consider, I suppose, if you're looking at those figures that we're dealing with here. Because if you're looking at it, that the R6, Sony hasn't got anything at this stage that can tackle that. Now, I know there's the A7 III, and there's also the A7C, which is out there as well. So I know Sony have got those, but they haven't really got anything that can tackle the R6 for features and specs. The R5, obviously, that's sort of similar to what the A7S III is. So I think Sony really, to really up their numbers, need to release something like an A7 IV. And what's happening here, you can see that Sony had really peaked sort of down here, and then they've sort of, over the last 12 months, I suppose, it's been going down. And that's probably due to the fact that they haven't released anything that, is just incredible. Well, I'm not saying the A7S III isn't, it is, but it's more of a niche type camera. It's not something that we're looking at that, is groundbreaking in video and stills as a fusion type camera, even though I think it actually is really terrific as a fusion camera, to be honest. But more people would like something with more megapixels, so they'd like something that gives you decent video and also a decent megapixel range as well, something like what the R6 does for Canon. So it doesn't surprise me if you're looking at that it's gone all the way down and it's dipped quite substantially at the end there. Whereas Canon, since they've released the R6, the R5 and the R6, you can see that they've had steady growth. And it really is starting to pick up. And you can see that we're almost to the point where they're meeting. And I think the way this is going, the Canon is probably going to go ahead of Sony. Now, this is only Japan, I think. But it looks like Canon is going to beat Sony shortly with the full frame cameras. If you look at Nikon has been sort of just steady the whole way through. So really it hasn't changed much for Nikon at all. Sigma and Panasonic have had a little jump at the end there, I suppose, with the new releases that they've done as well. But it just sort of comes down to say, I think Sony needed a really good not medium format, but they needed a really good fusion type camera or photography based camera, and they haven't really brought one out. The A7C is not going to do this for Sony. I can tell you that now, that the A7C is not going to sell enough to dethrone Canon, the R6, because it's basically just a respect. It's just an A7 III in a different body. That's how you've got to look at the A7C. And if you think that the A7C has been around for a little while, and Joe just talked about that, and I will talk about that in the next story, because Sony have dropped the price substantially, and I'll do that now just to sort of show you that here, where were we? Where was that one? Just let me see if I can find it. I thought I had that open. No. Oh yeah, it's here. New big savings for Sony. The A7 III is now for $1,698. So you can save $300 off that camera at the moment. So this may help. I mean, this may be something that may help. And it's now, if you look at it, boy, I can't see why you would buy the A7C. If you're dealing with the price that you can get the A7 III for, I would recommend 100% the A7 III over the A7C for that price range, because $1,698, you might as well use the money you're saving over something like the A7C and get a decent lens. So, you know, that's incredible. It's such a good price for that camera now. It's ridiculous. I don't know whether that's just B&H or whether it's overall. But you can also get 200 off the 2470 GM and also 200 off the 7200 GM as well. If you're looking down here, there's two figures showing there. So it's also saying here in the US you can get $500 off the Sony a7R IV, $300 off the A7 III, and $1,000 off the A9. What's that coming up at then? Let me just open that up. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Boy. The A9 at the moment, you can get the Sony A9 for $2,998. It's a saving, instant saving of $1,000 off the normal retail price. That is awesome. Wow, that's an incredible camera for that sort of money. Really good. If I was in the market for an A9 now, I'd jump on that. I really would jump on that, because the A9 II for me wasn't a massive update. It wasn't what you'd say is huge. But that saving now to get the A9 for $3,000 is brilliant. I mean, I do think we're probably going to get another A9 next year. But the A9 III is going to be way, way more expensive than what you're paying here. The A9 is still an incredible camera. It really is still an incredible updated camera to anything that's available at this point of time. I did a quick test the other day, and I must post this. I did a rolling shutter test. Sorry, not rolling shutter. I did a banding test with the Sony a7S III. I wanted to test to see if there was banding caused in my lighting in my home, and there was with the A7S III. The A9 still had no banding, and I might do a video about that, talking about it again, that if you're dealing with the silent shutter, the electronic shutter on the A9 is still the only one that you can really trust, where you will more than likely never see banding. So it's still amazing. So if you're after a camera that can really have no rolling shutter, no banding, the A9 is it. The A9 and the A9 II. And to get it at that price at the moment is nuts. That's unreal. Wow. So there you go. So that's talking about that. So perhaps Sony are trying to push up some sales before Christmas. That may be now what they're trying to do, offering all of these cameras with a fair bit off. There was $500 off the a7R IV, $300 off the a7S III. The a7S III, though, is a really great introductory camera now if you're dealing with pricing. So perhaps you may see the spike a little bit. But I do believe that Sony have to announce an a7 IV to really start to lift this again. Because remember, the a7 III did sell like absolute crazy when it was first released, due to the price that it was and the features that camera offered. So I think you'll probably find if they bring out an a7 IV, and I do think you're going to get 4K 60 in that camera, and there probably will be a bump in resolution as well. It's probably going to be, 30 odd megapixels or even potentially 40 odd megapixels. But now it looks like all the rumors is pointing to the end of next year. So I think if the way things are going, even though Sony have got decent sales on at the moment, I think they're going to have trouble catching up to Canon, or Canon are going to overtake Sony, looking at this graph that we're looking at here, which, I mean, look, at the end of the day is no big deal, because who cares? I mean, I'm in the Sony system anyway, so I don't care what the Canon graph does. But it's just an interesting conversation. So I'd love to know your opinion about that as well. But Canon seem to be releasing multiple things and new camera releases, major releases all along. There's rumors that they're also going to release, these new R5s and stuff, and R6, higher ended models there as well. So the coming next 12 months is going to be very, very interesting. Let me know what you think in the chat too, because I'll be really curious to know what you guys think about that. But, do you think that Sony have sort of missed the boat a little bit by not having an A7 IV released? I thought it was going to be out before Christmas. I really did believe that. But yeah. But let me go over to the chat for a minute just to see what people are saying. Andre said you need to get into drones, David. It's time. The problem here, Andre, is like everywhere, it's hard to get the places to fly them. There's so many rules everywhere all the time. That's the problem. Mike said, how is your small rig red handle with red button? Does it? Yes, it does. The only thing that doesn't take photos, though, I did test that, so I couldn't get it to take photos. It works well in video, though. So, yes, it's great. It's a great little handle, actually. I've taken the cage off, the small rig cage off, though, at the moment, because I wanted to put it on the gimbal, and I thought next week when I'm going out, I want to keep it as light as possible. But there was one thing that I ordered this morning from Small Rig. It's a bit weird what DJI have done, because DJI, for this gimbal, they have got an Arca Swiss plate that's in it, as you can see up here, but it's a proprietary one, so it's a little bit weird. So it's their own version of it, but I did notice that Small Rig, let me just show you this in case if anyone does have the RS. New window, let me just go to Small Rig. Let me go to pre-order. So Small Rig have this, which is much better, because what it is, let me just move it over. It's a standard Arca Swiss plate. So you'd be able to replace this with the one that DJI offer. And not only that, it still has these things underneath, because you can control it manually by turning a dial. But this one would be a generic, Arca Swiss plate, which I think would be much better. So I got this morning. It's $22.71. Now, I had points through Small Rig, so it didn't cost me anything. So I was wrapped. I think it cost me $1. It cost me $1.20 or something. So I've ordered that. Now, it doesn't come until the 20th. It says down on the bottom down here that this is all pre-release stuff. So and they're saying that the expected release date is the 20th of November 2020. And I think this is a nice handy thing to have too, because I have heard of some people, if you don't, I'll show you what I mean. This knob on the, where are we? There's a knob on the side up here. Let me go to full screen so I can show you. There's a knob on the side up here, there, and that's what you turn, and then this will move backwards and forwards, so it's fantastic to balance. But if you've got it in the lock position, I've heard of some people cross-threading those little cogs, so it might be a good thing to have a spare anyway. But yeah, so I've ordered that this morning, and I ordered just another little accessory as well. Let me go back to the chat. Small Rig just do some incredible stuff. I know they send me an awful lot too, but I do also buy stuff from them as well. I mean, they don't send me everything, but, like I said, I purchased that this morning. But I had points, so I didn't have to pay for it apart from $1. So that, yes, the handle does really well, Mike. I'm waiting for that 51.2 GM. Ooh. They should have launched the A7 IV at Christmas. Well, I thought they were going to, Leslie, and that was the interesting thing about that. I thought we were going to get that at Christmas. I sort of predicted that all along. I thought they'd release the A7S III, have that out for, like a couple of months, and then they would have released the A7R4, because they're not really going to conflict with one another, I don't believe. I don't think you'll get the really high bit depths. You probably won't get 4K 120, things like that you won't get with the A7 IV. So I thought they wouldn't really compete. They'd sort of work side by side. So I'm surprised that Sony didn't release that. But obviously there's reasons why they wanted to wait. Oh, thank you so much, Matt. Matt just gave me a donation. What's he said here? Let me just bring this up a little bit so we can see it. Moving Matt said, since Canon is the biggest camera company, it stands to reason when people upgrade, they will almost automatically take the lead in mirrorless. Yeah. I mean, I think for a while they were struggling though, Matt, because they did take so long to come out with mirrorless cameras. So, for a long time they were really quite far behind. I mean, if you look at that graph early on, Sony were way ahead if you look at the graph early on, and that's because Canon came in very late. The EOS R cameras did not sell very, very well at all. Sony was just sort of, blitzing them through there. And then all of a sudden they released the R5 and the R6, and we've had this major spike that's sort of come through, this area here. So you can see that if they've released good cameras, it stops people switching over, because there were quite a number of people that were switching from Canon to Sony. So it does stop them from sort of switching over. And they will stay within that. Remember, no one really wants to switch. Unless there's a real reason why you want to switch, you don't want to do that because it costs you too much money. I know there are some YouTubers or whatever that switch all the time and stuff like that, but it does cost a lot of money. I've done it once and I probably won't ever do it again. I'll probably stay with Sony now the whole time. So, yeah, it does probably make sense. Canon does have the biggest market share, so it does make sense. I agree. What else? Let me just come back to where we were. Too many laws surrounding drones for my taste. I know that's the problem, TJ. Me too. I've got a drone. I've got the Mavic Pro, which I only use for weddings. But, and now we have to do flight plans. There's all these other things that you have to do when you're flying it. And, it just gets a pain. Hero said, greeting coffee dudes. Mike said, I think Canon users stay with Canon because they do. It's okay with only 2 years mirrorless, less than 7 years of Sony mirrorless, and will come with firmware updates for the R6 and R5. Yeah, they will. And the updates, apparently the new ones, are quite good. And like I said, their autofocus on the Canon side has really, really improved, and it has on the Nikon. And we discussed that on Aaron's show that we did on Tuesday. I showed a whole video about how much the new Nikons had improved in the autofocus. So they're all getting very, very good. RGV said, don't forget that Canon had a much larger base to work from. Here in Southeast Florida, many of my wildlife photographers are switching from Nikon and Canon to the A9 and A9 II and the A7R4 with a 200 to 600 lens. Interesting. Hero said, nice, so used A7 III should be around 13 to 1400. I know, it's gone nuts. Like, what a camera for that amount of money. That really is an amazing camera for that amount of money, that's for sure. Like I said, why would you buy the A7C when you can get it for that sort of money? Unless you really want that slightly smaller body and the tracking and stuff, I suppose. Joe said Adorama also. Oh, okay, thanks, Joe. Mike said, and the Canon user knows that the Canon R1 will be probably the global shutter. Yeah, they are talking about that, aren't they? Hero said 600 f11 is why I'm on Canon right now. Yep, fully understand. Their lenses are incredible. Mike said, and the R7 APS-C for starters, they have the R7, R6, R5 and the R1. Nivak said there are a few GM lenses with a $200 off the Best Buy now as well, which is pretty uncommon. I think it was the 16 to 35 and the 70 to 200. Look, I do think that Sony are going to be pushed with lenses, and the longer that this goes on now, with Sigma releasing incredible lenses, Tamron releasing incredible lenses, Samyang all releasing incredible lenses, I think that Sony lenses are a little bit overpriced, to be honest. So I think they probably have to reduce it. If you look at what Sigma, and Samyang and Tamron are doing in their lenses now for $1,000 off what Sony are doing, they do have to look at their pricing. So you might find that the pressure now is now being put on, and that's what I would expect the market to do. As it becomes more and more mature, you'll get more and more lenses that are on offer. And, a lot of people at the moment would probably prefer to, say, have the Sigma 2470 than the Sony 2470. I think the Sigma 2470 is a much better lens. And, it's things like that, like the Tamron 28-75 is just incredible. The 70-180 I love. And we'll get the Sigma 70-200. We really are blessed now in Sony. So I think it probably has put a little bit of pressure on Sony to drop those prices. And I'm going to talk about some updates because there's rumours also about them updating some FE lenses. But I think it's just going to happen. And they'll bring out new versions, and then you'll be able to get the version 1 versions for much cheaper as well. Mike said, true, I have the same problem with my Ronin RS. Nice, I will order that Arca Swiss plate from Small Rig. Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it, Mike? And it was dirt cheap. Steve's here as well. Thank you so much for the donation, Matt. Scott's, g'day, Scott's. Going to order the A7C for £1,600. For the body only, save £300. Probably still another $200 too much. Might get the 21.8 next. Sounds nice. Thomas said, been waiting for the A7S III for weeks. It looks like it's not many here in Sweden. Getting them. Now it's coming around the 15th of November. The last I heard was mid-November for a lot of, they're going to have another release of the A7S IIIs. So I suppose, unfortunately, you just have to wait, but you will get it shortly. New update for the A7S III, yes, I'll talk about that. What else? John said, just joined and loving the R6. I just bought. My 5D Mark IV is getting nervous. The R6 is really good, especially with the new updates. I'm looking only at Sigmas now, Axeman said. Now they are just so much cheaper and they seem to be better. Well, it's like I said, if you look at the 2470 and the 70-200, Sony's lenses have been out for quite a period of time now. They're the version 1s. If you look at, say, Canon, they're up to, I think, version 3s. Nikon are up to version 3s of their 70-200s. I'm not talking about mirrorless, but I'm talking about their normal digital SLRs. So they've improved them over time. So I would expect the same thing is going to happen with Sony, though, too. And I'll talk about that when we go through the lenses in a minute, but you're definitely going to see updates to the Sony lens lineup. But you can't really go past what Sigma and what Tamron and what Samyang are offering. Gilbert's been posting, Gilbert's always in here, has been posting some Samyang 75mm, I think it was, images in our photography videography school, and that looks amazing as well. So, the lenses are just unbelievable that we're getting now. You certainly don't have to buy Sony lenses, that's for sure. There goes my Sony sponsorship again. I love it. Mike said, true, David, what you said about Sony lenses. If I was still a Sony shooter, I don't buy Sony zoom lenses. The Tamrons are great. Tamrons are amazing. John said, the Canon RF accessories are really hard to get. Took a month to get the EF to RF adapter, another 2 weeks for the L bracket, and both are back ordered again. Tells me Canon cameras R5 and R6 are flying off the shelves. Interesting. Gator Gaming says, I'm Italian and I find this live random. That's interesting. Welcome. Mike said, what will you be buying on Black Friday? Nothing. Kerry's listening. She probably is listening in the other room. She puts it on. If she's listening, let's see if we can get her in the chat. I love it. Kerry, you listening out there? Kerry, are you listening? If you are listening, say something in the chat. So, no, I don't really need anything, Mike. There's nothing that I really need at this stage. And like I said, at the moment, I'm trying to limit what I'm spending until weddings pick up again. Hero said, are there, John Drummond, local shops can't keep them in stock. Glad I had my R6 and the 85 F2 early. Thank you so much, Matt. No problem. I'm just putting down a down payment on my rent. If things keep going like this in the I'll be bunking with you soon. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I know you guys might be in lockdown as well. I mean, I know Europe now is going into lockdown. My auntie who lives in England is basically in full lockdown now. So it's getting pretty bad out there. We've had the last few days almost no cases here. We're really beating it at the moment. So keep your fingers crossed. I only need a new iMac, but I'll probably wait for the... Yep. I am going to get a new Mac, Mike, because Kerry also has an old Mac too. She has an old Mac Pro. I need a new Mac here for my editing. Look, this still works okay, but it really is starting to get a little bit slow now. So I think I'm just waiting for Apple to release an ARM Mac that's decent enough. So it's probably going to be sometime early next year, I'm hoping, that they bring out a new iMac with the ARM processor in them, or a really good MacBook Pro that I can use to sort of replace this. At the moment, I'm just using, the trash can Mac, which is a 2013. It's incredible when you think that this is a 2013 Mac and it can still play 4K video and edit 4K video very, very efficiently. But I have to say that was a really expensive Mac at the time. I did buy a high-end spec one, but it is now just starting to show its age if I, say, want to do the higher-ended A7S3 format. So I probably will get the new ARM Mac whenever it's released. Mike also said, here in Holland, all the pubs and restaurants closed. Probably there will come a lockdown. Yeah, I feel really sad for you guys because you're probably going to go through what we've been through for the last 16 weeks. But we did beat it. So, it's been worth it. All right, so let's go on to the next story. Let me just put down here. Oh, I did that there. Anyway, it's just going to be other news now because there's stacks in here. 37. So in other news, we've got quite a bit of it actually. This was interesting because Sony raises full year forecast as gaming thrives under COVID. So this is interesting, isn't it? So it shows that, now let me just show you something down here because it says here that when it comes to camera sales, Sony says there was a decrease in the unit of sales of broadcast and professional use products and digital cameras. Interesting to note that the sensor business, they forecast an increase in sales of image sensors for the digital cameras. And I think too, this is probably why they did separate the sensor division from the camera division, because the sensor division, I think, is always going to make money. The camera division obviously has probably lost a little bit of money due to the decrease in sales. But the gaming side of things is obviously going to boom because with the PlayStation 5 just about to come out, it's going to go nuts. And this is why I always laugh when people, we always know what Angry does. Mr. Angry, he always goes, they're not a camera company, they're a gaming company, whatever. Who cares? It might mean the difference of surviving or not surviving. And I hope Sony does well in every bit of their areas. Like, I hope the gaming sector does well, the camera section does well, or also the sensor division goes well. Because as a whole, it has to be a really good thing if the company is doing well in other areas. So if one area does dip a little bit, well, then they can cover those areas by going great in other areas. But the sensor division is amazing because you think, that it probably does the iPhones, it does all the cameras, a lot of the camera sensors that are out there. A lot of the phones are done from Sony sensors. The medical division, the security are all using Sony sensors. So they really are killing it, really. But I would think the gaming, particularly in the next 12 months, is going to be incredible. It says they expect a full year net profit to grow 37% to 7.6 billion after a strong second quarter. That's amazing. Improving from its previous forecast of a slight decline as pandemic-related boosted gaming revenue. So it looks really, really good, actually. Kerry. There you go. She is listening. She said, I'm listening, no shopping. That cracks me up. So she was listening. Boy, we all have to be careful, don't we? I love it. All right, so that's good anyway. So it looks like the gaming division is going to do really, really well this year. Another big thing here, well, I went through the savings now. I just did that before, that you can get the A7S3, the A7 III now for $1,698. So that's an amazing bargain, $300 off. But I think the bigger one there was $1,000 off the A9. That's incredible. Now, there's discounts everywhere. 200 off the 16 to 35, $200 off the 2470, $200 off the 70 to 200, and $200 off the 2470 f4 lens. There's $200 off the 16 to 35 f4. I love that lens. I've got that lens. I love it. $50 off the 50 1.8, $50 off the Sony 85. Now that's a pretty good bargain too, because that's already a pretty cheap lens. $50 off the Sony 20mm 1.8, $300 off the Sony 24-105, and etc, etc. So pretty good. You can even get $100 off the 55 1.8. I've got that lens as well and love it. So there's some really good specials at the moment. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen for Black Friday. Wow. To keep moving on, I love Mike said, also no flowers for you, Kerry. Now, there is a new A7S III firmware update, guys. It's been released this morning. I have downloaded it, but I haven't put it into my computer yet. I've downloaded it to the computer, but I haven't updated my camera yet. So I will do it this morning, actually. I'll probably do it after we finish here. There's only a couple of things that, I mean, it's probably no need to do it really, but it just says fixes an issue where the FTP transfer could fail when used with a USB LAN conversion adapters. I've got no idea what that means because I don't do that. Note, not all USB LAN conversion adapters are guaranteed to operate properly. Improves connection stability of USB tethering when using an iPhone. But it doesn't work with iOS 14 anyway, so that's what I've got. So it's not relevant anyway. They also say they recommend using a smartphone and USB cable that supports USB PD power delivery. Now, I suppose there's a reason to update because they always do this. They always give this thing of improves the overall stability of the camera. And you don't know what that is, but it could be bug fixes and things like that that they get sent and then they fix them and patch them. So it really is a good idea to update the camera. So like I said, I'll probably do mine this morning. This is not something I would recommend you to do, though. If you've got a wedding that day or the next day, I would not be updating your firmware in case if something happens. I would only do this if it's a little bit of a quiet time and you've got enough in case if something, screws up and, you can bugger up the camera if things go horrible. So I would be probably doing this if you haven't got anything that day or that weekend, and at least you could try and fix things if you do have issues. So just don't do it if you've got to shoot that morning or something like that. So I will do it just to see what the overall stability of the camera. So that was quite good that came out this morning. I wasn't expecting that at all. So there is a Windows version and obviously a Mac version. Also in the news, g'day Oik. Also in the news here, it says Sony will update some current E-mount glass starting in 2021. And it says down here, a couple of sources told me that they can expect some of their current existing FE lenses to be updated in 2021. I think particularly some older zooms needs to get a boost in optical quality performance. And this is what I say as well, that I can almost guarantee that the Sony 2470 will get an update. The Sony 70 to 200 will also get an update. They're still great lenses, guys, don't get me wrong, but if you look at the Sigma equivalent, of the 2470 against the 2470 Sony lens, the Sigma is actually a sharper lens. It's actually a better lens, and it's $1,000 cheaper. So I would think that Sony will be updating the zooms. So, we've already got the 16 to 35 f2.8, so that's been updated. But the 2470, I think, will get updated. The 70 to 200 will get updated. They'll probably put the linear motors into those lenses as well, which will make a massive difference in focus performance. They're still good, but they would be much better with those linear focus motors. with your primes, I still think we need an 85. They need to update the 85 particularly because that is a slow focusing lens. It still gives you beautiful results, but that also could benefit from having the linear focus motors in it as well. There are rumors that there'll be a 50 1.2 or something like that. I'd love there to be an 85 1.2. So I think they're lenses that will definitely be updated next year. There is also rumours, obviously, that the 24-105 will go to a 2.8. So that will be the updated version of that lens. But I still think the 24-70 and the 70-200 need updating. So that's that story. So stay tuned for that. Also, Sony registered a new camera this morning or yesterday in Asia. They're saying it's probably a new RX model. Now, down here, the reason why they're saying that is because it's hasn't got any 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So if there's no Wi-Fi in that 5 gigahertz, it's going to be a lower-end model. They're saying it could potentially be a low-end APS-C camera or an RX camera. So who knows? But at this stage, it doesn't look like it's anything exciting if you're waiting for something like an A7 IV, because that would have 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is a pity. But anyway, so something else is coming along, probably a new RX model. Another thing too, Venus Optics. This is pretty cool. Venus Optics announced the world's widest shift lens for full-frame cameras, and there's an FE mount to this, which is great. And this is one lens that I've always wanted. But now, I'm not going to go out, Kerry. I'm not going to go out and get this at this stage. But this is really pretty cool because if you look at this, the tilt shift lenses are amazing because if you do architecture and things like that, so if you're an architectural photographer or you're selling real estate and things like that, it does give a massive difference. You can see with a wide angle lens what's happening to the trees on the side there. They really slant in. Because this lens moves and it takes that, your angle into perspective, it will straighten things up and you can see the difference on the right-hand side. And it gives you much better quality if you're dealing with things that are really close, like it takes the perspective, it makes the perspective look better and things like that. It looks really nice. So, wow, good on them for doing that. There's no price, though, mentioned at this stage. Am I right in saying this will be the only E-mount tilt shift lens? I don't think there is any others, are there? Someone in the chat might be able to let me know, but I don't think there's any others because at the moment you would have to use them with an adapter. Either Nikon or Canon or one of the other things. I'm just seeing if there's anything mentioned about pricing. No, there's nothing there mentioned at all. No, nothing there at all. But I think this will be the first full frame for the Sony full frame E-mount for the E-mount. Let me know. Let's keep going because the last story before I open up Q&A is that 16mm apparently has been delayed. So if you were waiting on the 16mm 1.8, it's been delayed due to production issues. Now, I'm not sure what that means. Perhaps it could be COVID related or whatever. I'm not sure. It just says down here, they were originally saying it was going to be announced in early 2021. The new GM lens that is ready... That is ready, as you guessed correctly, and was planned to be announced by surprise on November the 4th. So they were saying it was going to be announced this November the 4th. Has indeed been moved to early 21 due to production issues. Production isn't up to speed and can't keep up. They're also saying on November the 17th, there will be the official presentation of the FX6. Well, that's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm really interested to see what that has. And sadly enough, that will be it for 2020. Next year will be more exciting. So it looks like the only thing that now we're going to get announced this year, perhaps an RX or the FS6 announcement is going to be this time, sometime this month. If you're after the 16mm 1.8, it looks like it's going to be sometime early next year. So let's open up Q&A. Let me just put in here. So if you have any questions, guys, just fire away. All right, so let's open up Q&A. Let's just see where we're up to. New York was the epicenter, but we're in good control now. But the rest of the country is going downhill fast. Yeah, I do think about you guys, John. Well, I think about you all because I know exactly what it's like because we went through it. It's the second lockdown here, Mike said. John said Sony sensor division will be fine as long as Nikon is still buying them. Kerry, I love it. She said, I'm listening, no shopping. Oh, that's funny. Mike said, wish Canon had a 21.8. I'm sure they'll just keep adding to their lenses anyway. Leslie said, not in Australia. That's the prices are not on special here. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you can buy it from B&H, but the problem is if you buy it from B&H, you do pay duty coming in, and then you have to send it back there if there's a warranty issue because Sony Australia won't do it under warranty. Mike said, true, David, I never did an update the day before a shoot. Yeah, don't ever update your camera firmware before a shoot because if something goes wrong, you are screwed. Discounts and cameras and lenses not in Australia. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Mike said, hi, Ike, that Nikon man. The new ones will be great, I think. Ike said, hi, Mike. There's no such thing as a bad camera these days. Exactly. Very, very true, Ike. What else? Mike said, what's your prediction for the next year for Sony, Nikon, Canon, Panasonic? It's hard to say, Mike. I mean, I think, look, I think Sony is sometime next year is going to release an A7 IV. That's obviously a given. I'm not sure. Hopefully they'll release a new APS-C camera. I mean, I'd still like that camera to exist. I'm using the A6400 now with a Sigma 16mm on it. It's a great little travel camera to take around, really small. It's good also if you need the crop. When I did the Tamron 100 to 300 the other day, the review I did of that, having that extra reach when I was grabbing the surface was amazing. So I just grabbed the APS-C camera. True, you can do that with an A7 III, but you drop the resolution. So it's still good to have, your 24 megapixel camera that can give you full resolution. So I do hope something like that comes out. Canon definitely seem to be lifting their game now, and also Nikon do. Nikon have just obviously announced the new Z Series 2 cameras that are just about to come out. They look like a really good update. Much better autofocus now with dual card slots and everything as well. So I think that they probably would sell well. Panasonic is just going to keep progressing. I think Panasonic needs to change the autofocus though. Panasonic needs to put in phase detection. If Panasonic put in phase detection, those cameras would sell much better. So it's a pity that they don't do that, and I think they just need to give up that contrast detection autofocus and move over to phase detection. So it's something that they need to do, and hopefully they'll do it sooner rather than later, because I think that the Panasonic cameras are incredible. The FS6 for Sony is going to be a great camera, I think, if you're after a professional camera. That's not going to be ridiculously expensive. The FX6 is also going to be great. And the new Canon, what was it, the C70 or whatever it was that's going to come out also looks really good. Or was it C700? I can't remember. But that looked really good as well. I think Fuji is going to be fine, because Fuji always tend to produce great cameras, and they'll probably bring out a couple of new models during the year as well. I hope they all succeed. Joe said, I've heard that the speed of the autofocus is determined by the speed of the lens. It does help, Joe, yeah. Look, only if you're talking about low light, though. If you're dealing with decent light, I've found it doesn't really matter that much. But if you're dealing with low light, you definitely get better autofocus if you have a fast lens, yes. If you're dealing in daylight where it's lighting, I haven't found that it makes any difference. But I have found that if I'm using something like a 1.4 lens, it will focus better in low light than, say, a 2.8 lens will. So that's something that you have to consider. Ike said, I predict next year Nikon, Canon and Sony will announce the release of a new camera and we'll find something about them to complain about, because why not? You all forgot to drink while talking water. I'm not sure what that means. That lens is 1,199, is it, Steve? Thanks for that. Interesting. Your head is so bright I can see my future. Thanks. Delta said, with COVID cases on the rise again, camera companies are pushing back release dates until things look optimistic. Yeah, that may be the case, Dave. So, we might find that that could be the the thing here too. This guy's going off, so I'm just gonna time him out. John said the cost of the Laowa 15mm f4 tilt will likely put people into shock. Why? How much is that one? Is that not the one that's? Oh no, it's not. Is it? It's Laowa. The keyboard with only voice control and touchpad. What does that mean? Is that what you're after on a camera? Is that what you're saying? Mike said, do you use proxies? No, I don't. I can edit the HSVCI. That what am I using? I can edit these no problem. Sometimes I convert to ProRes. I'm using the XAVCSI. And that's fine. It will edit fine. Look, it's fine as long as I go up to 4K 60. If I want to do 4K 120, I have to convert to ProRes. But I usually like to convert to ProRes anyway. And I'm just using this. What am I using? This little thing. I think there's a Windows version as well. I'm not sure. But I'm just using this little program. Let me open it up and I'll just show you. Let me just blow this up a little bit. What are we on? That one. I'm using this, and it works very, very well. Let me just come back in. So I'm just using this. All I do is I drop all of the files in to here. So I just drop them all in. You can batch process them. And then you can determine your settings from here. I'm just using Final Cut ones, but I'm using the ProRes HQ is what I'm using, but there's all different formats that you could use as well. But this is where the ProRes ones come in. Let me just get out of that for a second. So you can see it's ProRes HQ. I just determine where I'm going to put it and then convert them. And then I just leave it running. And it's pretty quick. Like, it's surprising how fast it actually does it. So we'll convert all of those Sony files into ProRes, and then the ProRes edits like butter. It's not an issue at all. So that's what I'm using. There'll be ones for Windows that are available as well. So, you know, there's plenty that you could use for that. But that's I think it's AC Soft Video Converter for Mac. So I'm not sure if there's a Windows version of that or not. So I don't use proxies, no, Mike. I haven't had to at all. Ike said if Panasonic used PDAF, they would compete much more with Sony and Canon in the video department. Yeah, I know exactly. Panasonic tend to have the best video feature, just missing great AF. The interesting thing, though, Ike, is if you're dealing with stills, this is what is just incredible. The still side of Panasonic cameras, their focusing system, the contrast is unbelievable. It is very, very fast. In fact, I couldn't believe how fast the GH5 was for taking stills. It's only when you go into the video, because it does that thing of going past the object and then coming back, that you sort of see in the video itself, and it's distracting and it's not good. And that's the way contrast has to work. But in stills, it doesn't matter. It just bangs past and then immediately grabs focus. It was as fast as anything I'd used in the still side of things. So, you know, if you're using things like the G9 and all these Panasonic cameras for stills, it's excellent. It's only from the video side of things that you need that PDAF. There wasn't really much to talk about the Fujifilm today. We just sort of mentioned updates and stuff like that. What's your overall view of the new Zeiss camera? I'm not really a fan of it, Dave, to be completely honest. I don't think I've been wanting to edit Lightroom on a thing that size. So for $6,000, I'd be buying a different camera. It was on Sony Alpha Rumours this morning. Let me just see if we can find it. New window. I'll just bring it up and so I'll show you. I mean, the design looks interesting. I mean, I have to say at least they've done some, you know, interesting things with design on these things, that it looks interesting in the design component. Where were we? I've just got to find where it was. Must be on page 2. go, the ZV-1. So it's this little camera here. Just click over here. It's this little one here. So it's an interesting design concept, but everything's sort of built in. So, you know, it has Lightroom built into it and things like that. I mean, I think the design itself is quite interesting. Let me just switch over. I'll bring it up a little bit so that you can see. You can see there it looks nice. I mean, it is quite a nice design, very minimalistic and stuff like that. But I don't know, it may be a little bit slippery to hold in your hand. I'm not sure about the way that it's sort of very, very smooth and stuff, and I'm not sure it would feel great in your hand itself. But it does, I believe it does come with the interfaces all built in and things like that. So it's an interesting concept. It really is, because it sort of has Adobe stuff all built in. It just says down here that it's a 37.4 megapixel full frame sensor. It has the Zeiss 35mm f2 lens. That would be a really nice lens. It's got integrated Photoshop, leaf shutter and physical exposure dials, Lightroom CC. So there are some interesting things that are in this. I mean, I just don't, it's just not for me. Modelled after the Ethos Shoot, Edit, Share, the Zeiss ZX1 is a truly innovative camera with an uncompromising position on all facets of photography. And it's got a built-in Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom, I think, is built into it. I'm just trying to see if it just says much else. Let me just see down here. So it's a 37.4 megapixel sensor, ISO 80 to 51-200, paired with the perfectly Zeiss. That would be a beautiful lens. The 35 f2 lens would be a beautiful lens. Let me just have a look. OLED electronic viewfinder, a 4.3-inch rear touchscreen, 0.74 magnification. It doesn't mention about what the video formats are, though. Let me just check here, specs. I'm just trying to see what it has for video. Shutter speed 1/2000th to 330 seconds. 1/2000th. That's odd. Well, that's terrible. Okay. Let me just keep going up here. Recording modes, H.265. It uses an also H.264, and it's got 4K 30p. If you want to go to 1080, it does 60. I don't know. I think it's way overpriced, really. Looking at that, I'm not excited by it at all. But let me know what you think in the thing. I think it's way overpriced. Joe saying, good evening. Yeah, we just about finished here now. Mike said, Final Cut handles video files like a dream. It certainly does. Mike says, sounds cool, David. With ProRes, maybe do a short tutorial for video editing. Yeah, maybe, Mike. Ike said, if you have a Mac and are struggling to edit video files, it's probably because you're not editing in Final Cut. Yeah, it does work really well. I went over to Premiere for a very short period, and then I switched back because it was just way too slow. Ike also said, yeah, that's true, David. Panasonic is some of the best for still. It's incredible. I could not believe how good the GH5 was, Ike. And it was amazing for stills. If you're only doing stills and not video, any of the Panasonic cameras will be incredible. It's really, really fast. Really fast. Hello, David. What's your opinion on the rumoured Z8, Z9 spec? I don't think I've really looked at those yet. I might talk about that in another one. I'm sure it's going to be great. Like I said, I haven't looked at that yet. I'll have to check that out. 512 gigabyte SSDs built into the Zeiss. Oh, okay, so it's an SSD. Is it built in? That's pretty cool. I mean, eventually that will happen with all cameras, and that would be a great thing to have in there. So it does have some features that are pretty high spec, but it also has some things I think, oh, okay. What else? Thinking of buying an iPhone 12 Max. I'm going to get the new iPhone in a couple of weeks. So when the iPhone X Pro Max comes out. Hero 12 1/2000th. I know, that was nuts. I can't understand that 1/2000th of a shutter. That is useless. Max said, how would you use the Adobe brush tools in camera? Well, not easily. I think it's probably just for editing, Max. I think that's really probably what it will be. It'd be more for doing a quick edit and stuff like that, I would think. But I don't know, we see if it works, but it would be pretty tiny. It looks like a Leica for the future, but nobody will buy it. Just rich people who makes the design. Cripple camera for Leica lovers, I think. Hero said, you don't need an iPhone 12 to practice composition. Any camera will do, really. And Ike said, hush, Hero, laugh out loud. Let him join the iPhone gang. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Like I said, I won't be here next Saturday because I'm going to the 12 Apostles, actually. So I'm going to have a day doing that, which should be beautiful. Apart from that, everyone, stay tuned. I will be back live with Aaron on Wednesday, Australia time, Tuesday, US time. It might be an hour earlier, though, because I think you guys go into daylight savings. Aaron and myself, the time is locked in now. So maybe a little bit an hour earlier than usual, everyone. So apart from that, everyone, thank you so much for joining today, and thanks for the great questions. Any questions, leave them down below, and I always do answer every question, guys. So unless it for some reason goes to the holding area in YouTube, I always answer every single questions. Have a great weekend. Have a great Halloween. It's Halloween night here today. Have a great Halloween. And stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.